Yeah, as you can see, it snowed on my steed last night. Alexander got out after dark and we were running around playing in the snow, and at one point he was barefoot, at the beginning anyway. We were both barefoot. I thought, oh well, we should enjoy it while we have it, because it didn't seem like the sort of snow that was going to thicken overnight. But how's this little place we're staying at? A couple of nights. The usual place wasn't available. It's a nice change though, as you can tell. But I was just the owners of this place don't want to come up and say hello. Can't think why. But I was inspired to just turn on the phone and make a video, because next door there are, over there's another family with young children, and the dad just came out and I greeted him and he stayed away and walked pretty much back inside. Immediately back, oh my word, what is going on? In better news, brighter news, we went to a meet and greet, sharing vegetables and home produce and things that we make and so on, that sort of thing. We went to that on Friday, and as I got there I was like, oh no, we can't go in here. Look, they've got a sign up saying CV rules apply. And initially I was like, whoa, and there's all people with nappies on their face. But fortunately we went in, we met some really cool people, interesting people, people who are trying to off-grid, trying to find a way. Where we are at the moment, this beautiful landscape is called Dargle, and it's probably about 2 hours inland, almost 2 hours inland, into a semi-mountainous area before the big mountains here called the Drakensberg. It's so pretty, and it's, if you were looking for a place to be beyond the sort of the day-to-day regulatory insanity, then something like this would be almost perfect. There's lots of space. People have 10 acres, 30 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres. And the land is, relatively speaking, quite cheap. And, I know it's become more popular in recent times, and more people are trying to stretch their legs a little further away from city support systems. I needed to say some thank yous actually as well. Andrea's writing me a list of some names, but Robert Patterson just, you guys sent me some money before, so Rob, thank you. Sent me £400, sent us £400. That's the biggest single contribution outside the family since Richard, since the ceiling fan man at the beginning of the year. That money he sent us, that got us out of Portugal. Here's Andrea. Did you want to say something?
Just, we were reflecting the other day how grateful we were for the support, and reminded of how incredible that has been and how supportive that has been. Because, in these times it can be quite easy to fall into the sort of the collective energy of how hard this is, and actually there's so much to be grateful for if we just stop for a moment. And the support has been incredible, and the words of support, on Dave's videos, for Dave and the family, are just, they really are so important, and it underlines how important community is. I've spoken to Deb about this a little bit, but I was wondering whether anybody would be interested in us setting up a sort of more Zoom-like call where we can talk to each other, or we can, be
Or have
there,
an open platform.
have an open platform where we can talk more openly and with each other instead of it just being Dave and then comments. So if anybody's interested, if you can just write in the comments that you.
Yeah, I was talking to Josh the other day, and he and I found it beneficial, beautiful, to kind of have that. And I know with Andrew and Marika been talking about it, and Joe, of course, Joe and Carl in Portugal. These are valuable support networks. But yeah, Rob's gift was like quite a solid thumbs up to say, I like what you're doing. Please keep going on. And actually, my last video, which included a brief conversation with that gentleman in the yellow shirt, his English wasn't the strongest. Funny enough, we saw him again just the next day. When doing that, and I've had many more conversations off camera, I really feel like a sense of purpose, a sense of this is right, and because there have been days when it's like, oh, what's the point of it? We're so far down this sort of play. Is there any value in trying to help people? But because you come across people who go, just shut up, mate, and we used to be friends, but if this is the sort of stuff, we actually went to lunch with my dad and his wife, and
we had quite a triggered conversation.
Yeah, because my my pal Peter, his name came up. Strong Catholic, and we spent 4 nights with him, I think, when we first got to Durban, and in that course of that, I said things that really upset him, but because I was saying my truth about the Vatican's centrality in the way that the world is and how it's organized and deceived. So that really was a bit of a death blow, I think, to the friendship, because his friendship, as good as it's been over 30 years almost, actually his name comes up in my book a few times because we were friends at that time and so on. But his love for the organization or the corporation over the creation, because we are the creation, not corporations.
But he's a good example of trauma, isn't he?
Yeah, great example. I mean, and we all know the Catholics are sliced up when they were like a few weeks old. Particularly the boys, I mean, are sliced, and there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on with that. But the point really was that Emma was my dad's wife, was like, but isn't a friendship worth more than that? And I said, well, I was expecting that, but I said, no, but if wouldn't you tell if shouldn't you just keep quiet, And I'm like, well, if your best friend's husband was having an affair, would you want to tell your friend? Oh, absolutely, I would tell my friend. But that's different. Yeah, it is different in that that's just two people having extramaritals. This is the entirety of humanity, the children, the old people, the frail, the infirm, the downtrodden, the entire nature of our soul journey here. All of that's associated to establishing these truths, or unpicking the untruths. So, I do feel that it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. It's hugely unfortunate. And as I said, it's not me who's wanting to run the other way. It's you guys who can't hear this information without feeling the need to recoil from me as though I've somehow slapped you in the face personally.
Can I add another layer to this? I think what we're seeing a lot is ego, and ego remains the guardian of you, and we can see this in the bigger picture, in the macro, it remains the guardian of you, or the master of you when you have unresolved stuff, because the ego will use your trauma to kind of keep you locked in or obedient to it, and will get triggered when you try and bring something that the ego feels is criticism or whatever.
And it's
so
belief also.
well, exactly.
Belief
but
is
but
the
our
thief,
belief
isn't it?
system is built on our experience, isn't it? Our belief system is built on because everybody starts sort of, well, mostly you start at the same base point, and then whatever you experience after that, although I think your birth and whatever is part of that, but whatever you experience after that will build this belief system or this perspective on life, and then we have all these influences that we are given or experiences, and some of them are traumatic and they leave an imprint. And then we have this ego that starts to get out of control and wants to protect us from everything, including taking on anything new, any new information, because it will rock your belief system. And so that's why, when we had this conversation with Emma, I said, it's really our responsibility to find out why we're being triggered by it. And that's where the nugget of gold is, because if you can go in and find out why you're not open to listening, then you can release yourself from that prison, really, that master that has control over you. And we're seeing that in the macro too. So that's why, again, it goes back to that inner work. And if you're prepared to do it, if you're prepared to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why am I being triggered? Then you are able to open yourself up, and that's true freedom. I think freedom of the mind, body, and soul is true freedom.
So just on belief, though, I think it's important for me, I do talk about things that I believe in, but I don't hold them so tight that I would be outraged if someone suggested some other belief. Let's separate the knowing and the believing. What we know is things like, light things float, heavy things sink in a particular medium, hot rises, cold sinks, water boils around 100 degrees, changes into gas. These are things we know, and when that gas rises, it'll settle at a particular point until it cools and subducts down. Everything sits in layers, it's all horizontal. These are things that we can see and show, and then there's things grow up, always grow in an upward direction. They're always seeking that upward thing. These are things that we can see for ourselves in our world, and these are things that people then want to layer other beliefs on to say, but this and this means that you can't see how that happens. And I'm just challenging these things,
That's the defense
I'm just
ego,
challenging.
isn't it? That's a defense ego. I mean, you were fortunate to have the opportunity to grieve your mother, to grieve your wartime, to do the DMT, and then after that, this whole thing was, you were able to be open to all of it. And what we're seeing is actually, we're seeing children. The humanity is children, and that we all need to grow up.
I see. Yeah, we do need to grow up. I think that actually what I'm encountering, and this includes flat earthers, is that there's a lot of wounded children actually in operation. And that movie, Bugsy Malone, I think that's a truth drop. I think that we got a lot of children running around with machine guns. It reminds me of the one place we've been staying at. It's cheap and nice place, but the kid 80-year-old kid running around with like plastic machine guns and stuff. And I'm trying to avoid ZZ seeing all of that. Hey, we've only got like 1 minute left because the memory hasn't been cleared on this phone by somebody. So I just want to say, so Rob, thank you. And June Schlebusch is a lady who I don't even think she's into the flat earth, although she's quite a strong biblical supporter. And she came to be a friend of mine through my veteran work. So she has nothing at all really to do with my flat earth journey. But she has been a loyal 80-year-old friend,
unconditional support.
unconditional support, and she's in South Africa, and she sent me what in South Africa is a sizable sum of money, 1,000 rand, about £50, which for a lady of 80 is, you know, it's important money. So, and she's like, you're doing God's work. I want to support that. Here's something for you, which is more than I can say for my family. So,
but we have small amounts that come every month from Call for Zero.
Call for Zero, thanks, buddy. And our other Patreons.
Oh,
I'll get those names out the box soon.
So many, and really, we just have to just say we're
be humble and grateful, and
so grateful for it.
We'll make another video as soon as I've got this memory.